good evening, and welcome to this Wednesday, November 25th edition of the Untitled Sports Show. Joining me is co-host Jason Juglin J. Ford, and tonight we will be joined by the president of the Bermuda Boxing Federation, Nathan Dill, and the president of the Bermuda Netball Association, Ms. Kamal Evans. But until we're ready to get to them, Jay, another week of sports, an announcement from the Tourism Authority of another major sailing event going to take place in Bermuda in 2021. They're hoping that 2022 and 2023 will follow suit, but we need to get the first one out of the way. We know we can remember back when we were signing the deal for the America's Cup. It was supposed to be a lengthy deal. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but hopefully they can secure this particular one for the next 3 years. We know we have the Gulf for 3 more years. So your thoughts on the sailing and having those catamarans back on the Great Sound?
Do you think we dropped the ball?
In regard to what?
Not extending that deal, the original deal?
Which original deal?
No, we couldn't actually. Well, let's go back, because the America's Cup was something different. That it wasn't totally up to us to have the America's Cup here.
Right.
But no, some other events are supposed to have happened right after that. Am I correct?
Yeah, they were supposed to have Moth championships and other championships, but
okay. So you know what? Squash all that. Let's go forward.
Yeah,
I am glad that's coming back.
Yeah.
And I say this because, Earl, any explosion, I say any explosion, not only for our island, but also for our competitors. And we got to see, even with the America's Cup, we was able to enter a Bermudian team, which had never been happening. While in the racing, the match race, they're racing. So to have a Bermudian out there, and they done good. But also just the fact that, our island is so picturesque. I mean,
yeah. But we had this conversation before. We had, especially about sports.
Yes.
We in Bermuda always talk about how picturesque and how beautiful it looks on television and all that. But we're the only ones looking at it like that. Everybody else that's watching the sport is watching the sport.
Yes.
And I had an interview with Glenn Jones, the interim CEO of the BTA yesterday, and I made mention of that we all know it's a beautiful place, but how are these sailing events going to improve the visitor in the future? Not for the event, but in the future, because we know that people come here to play on the golf course that the pros played on. We see that.
Let's think about it. What's been one of the main one of the initiatives that the government's trying to do is bring the super yachts back, right? And we saw over that period of time we had numerous super yachts
during the event. Yes,
during the event, right?
During the event.
So you will probably, I won't say duplicate it, but you at least can see some super yachts, because that's their event. That's their sport, right?
Exactly.
The other thing that I'm going to point out, because we heard a little bit from the golfer we last week, Javon Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
Javon Roberts said when he was playing the PGA and he was around, what was he doing? Rubber shoulders with
yes,
some of the best in the world.
Right.
But even though we might not have a sailor on the water that day, but our elite sailors will be rubbing shoulders with the elite sailors around the world.
If they're invited.
Let's be positive on this one.
Well, we are. I mean, I'm just trying to make sure that. And I asked the interim CEO, will the sailors be involved? How will the Bermuda sailor be involved? And that's important, because we do a lot of this stuff, and a lot of the people that play or are in the sport on a regular basis are hardly on the sideline.
This is where a little bit more than the average person.
Yeah.
The naive person, should say, "Hey, this should be automatic," but apparently to you, this hasn't been automatic. So hopefully that it will be automatic. And you see that in other sports. They get more fan friendly.
Yes.
Motorsports, you see they get to get inside the pits, which once upon a time was a restricted area altogether.
Right.
NASCAR has even gone to that. And motocross has been doing that for years when they started taking licks in the ratings. So they started getting people to, once again, enjoy the experience, not just the race, but the experience.
Yes.
So these are the things that all sports, football, we've seen that happen with football. And Sean Good has been an ambassador for the Premier League out there. So in saying all of that, going forward, I would really hope that our locals will be allowed to rub shoulders, act as a sponge to get all the information they can get, and get competing at the highest level. And hopefully one day they'll be hosting, they got the main boat in the main race on the main tournament, or main sailing regatta, whatever you want to call it. So that's my goal. That's my wish.
I'm hopeful that is the case as well. And we get a chance to make sure that our sailors get the experience for this event. I mean, these are extraordinary boats, and you need a lot of time and work in them. You can't just jump up and decide you're going to get in one of these boats, because what the speeds that they do and the technical stuff that goes along with it, you need a lot of time in a boat. And we saw that when the Youth America's Cup took place. Those guys were together for a year in one of those boats, just learning the boat, and then we're jumping into races. So it's going to be vital that the interested ones get an up close and personal look at it. The sailors will be here training for 4 weeks. It's an opportunity to pick their brains on it, and so forth and so forth. But we're just hopeful that the weekend that the event will take place will be a good one for them, weather-wise and picturesque-wise for Bermuda, and we get that exposure around the world. 2021 is shaping up to be a sporty year in Bermuda. I mean, we're due to host the Carifta Games at the beginning of April. This sailing event is at the end of April. We have the PGA returning. We have the World Rugby Classic returning. We have the World Tens returning. We have the triathlon as well.
We should have Gold Cup, I believe.
And Gold Cup, yes. So it's shaping up to be a bumper year, as well as the Bermuda athletes that will be competing in the Olympic Games, the Paralympic Games. There's the Caribbean Championships have been pushed back to 2022. So 2021 is shaping up to be the year of sports for this country, not only as host, but to be competing around the world. So a lot of eyes will be on Bermuda, in Bermuda, and a lot of eyes will be on Bermuda outside of Bermuda as well. So let's just hope that everything works out in 2021, and we are the leader, as we were for international sports this year, with this pandemic, that we are the same as next year.
One caveat to that sailing, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news sometimes, but I hope we have learned a bit from what went wrong last time, as far as getting the information across to the public, the transparency of everything that went down, and having a better understanding with all the stakeholders, especially the public, because obviously we saw how that went wrong the last time. And I just hope we've learned from it.
Right.
And I hope this group can actually, hopefully will be a lot better than last time.
The one thing, I mean, I fully understand that. The one thing we have to remember, it's not our event. We're just the host.
That's why I put the information game.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying, the information.
And I agree 210%.
Transparency of the information, I think people have a better understanding with more information they have. Whether you like it or not, just like if you didn't like rugby, you never saw a national sports competition. But the people that did want to go, the information was there for them. So that's my only caveat to this.
Right. Well, I did promise that we will be joined by the president of the Bermuda Boxing Federation, Nathan Steele. First of all, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Earl. How you doing, Jason?
Hey, guy.
We're good. Well, you and I had a conversation a few weeks ago when the news came out about the Boxing Federation and the AGM coming up. Can you shed a little more light into the situation, how it stands as of today? Because the voting is in a matter of 2 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, so December 12th, I believe,
13th, yes.
30th, yeah, is the actual Congress. And just to set the framework for Bermuda, boxing is $1 million or $1 billion business. Amateur boxing worldwide is definitely a multi-million-dollar business. And so this AIBA election, so AIBA is our FIFA, it's our international governing body. And like FIFA, over the last 10 years, they've been embroiled in some controversy. We had a big cheating scandal in the Brazil Olympics. That's what, 2012, 2008?
2016.
16, sorry. Yeah. So we had a big cheating scandal where a couple of the judges, more than a couple of the judges, basically pledged to, hey, if it's this country or this country, we're going to go with this country. So they all had their little union. The international body, the IOC, International Olympic Association, got involved, and amidst that scandal came the misappropriation of funds, and AIBA essentially losing its ability to sanction the upcoming Olympics. So the actual rescheduled 2021 Tokyo Olympics will not be under our international body. The IOC, the International Olympic Association, said, look, we're going to create our independent body. You guys, their words, clean house, and we'll get back to you. So that's the position our international body is in. So, which brings us to our situation and how Bermuda unfortunately got caught up in this whole scandal, this whole scandal. And I'm glad you got your ear to the international media, because I really didn't think it would get any attention in Bermuda. But you know, Earl's got his ear to the news grind. So the Caribbean has unity. So I'm new to the game as far as the international politics of boxing. I'm relatively new. I'm up with people who's been in there for 20, 25 years. But what I'm understanding is that the Caribbean has a very strong voting bloc, because we are 14, 16 English-speaking nation that talk to each other, collaborate, communicate. And the last two presidents voted in as AIBA president were voted in largely based on the Caribbean bloc of countries. So it is either one, you court the Caribbean and make sure that you have our vote, or two, you make sure that we're not unified and make sure that we're not able to have a vote. So with the financial scandal with AIBA, the Swiss banks closed AIBA's international accounts. That was in 2018. So Bermuda, I haven't paid our dues, because I'm like, where am I going to pay it to? I don't know where to pay it to. I don't know how to pay it. Apparently, a lot of the Caribbean countries meet in person with our confederation, the AMBC, and when they see the people, they pay cash in person. Bermuda, we're far removed. The only conference I went to was in Panama. We were flown first class to Panama in January, because there's like, look, we need the Caribbean. So they said, we need you all to be at this conference. So I got a call and I said, we need you to be in the conference. And I played it to the left. I said, I'm working, I'm not available. Take my program director's name. If you need somebody, she works for herself. She can go. Because I didn't really think that this was going to happen. They came back and they said, no, we need you there. You're the president. We need you there. I thought they was going to cancel her ticket, because they actually bought her a ticket, to my surprise. But they said, no, we need you there. And they said, basically, look, you got 3 days. We're sending you a ticket. We need you in Panama. for this conference. Let's go. So I took a day off from work. I flew out on the Friday. I flew back on the Sunday. That's how quick it was. I had a beautiful time, but I don't know who the players are. So I wasn't able to talk to somebody and say, hey, we have our dues to pay. I'm not even really supposed to be at this Congress because I haven't paid our dues since 2018. I don't know who the person is. They haven't introduced themselves. They didn't get up on stage and say, I'm so and so. So we've never paid cash. We've always done an international transfer. So sorry, too much background information, but I'm trying to be concise about things.
Right.
Because it's now a legal matter, right? So St. Lucia called me and he said, hey, Nathan, no, I'm sorry. Before that, I even sent a letter to everybody and said, you need to pay before October 12th. And I rung the alarm. I actually was the one to ring the alarm and said, hey, they said we need to pay, but the bank account that they sent is of a private individual in Costa Rica. That doesn't sound right. We're paying our international federation dues to some Joe Blow's bank account. That doesn't sound right financially. Bermuda is a financial district. You wanted me to send it to a bank account in Serbia that doesn't even register on my bank's transfer list. Then you said, never mind, send it to this Joe Blow in Costa Rica. And I said, that's not financially sound. That doesn't sound right. So I asked the chairperson of the Caribbean, I said, can you please clarify this? Because this just does not sound right, especially since AIBA is cleaning house and trying to get everything together financially. So he did. And essentially, so that was October 4th. Essentially, it came back October 11th. They doubled down on the instructions. They said, no, if you want to vote, you need to pay to that account that we sent you. Nobody else complained but you, the Caribbean. You need to send it to that account. Okay. All right. Doesn't sound right, but we'll do that. So I said, look, I'll make the transfer tomorrow on the day it's due, but I'll make it. It's urgent. I'll make it. St. Lucia contacted me amongst other countries and said, look, if you're going to have a challenge, make it that deadline, let me know. I'll send the money in for you. I said, no, thanks. I got it. No problem. Cool. And then I thought about it. I said, oh man, I got a new phone, you know, the token thing, you know, it's not set up on my new phone. So I'm going to have to go in. So I knock off 3:30. I have to go straight to the bank. You know what? If anything derails me, okay. You know what, St. Lucia? Yes. Go ahead and make the transfer for us on our behalf, and I'll just transfer it to you in a couple days. That's where we got in all the trouble. So apparently St. Lucia did not send it themselves. They was just organizing it for everybody. They said, hey, everybody, if you have dues outstanding, hit us up. We'll pay it for you. You just pay us back. No problem. So it was actually the Dominican Republic Boxing Federation, FICA Box, that paid on our behalf. Now, FICA Box has a candidate running for the election. So this is where it gets sticky, because in somebody's opinion, this is him buying our votes.
Right.
And I can, to a certain extent, understand the question, but the question is, have you had a conversation about aligning your vote with anybody from the Dominican? I said, I don't even know who this person is. Domingo Sodan. I've never heard the name. I don't know the person. Never heard the name before until it was alleged that he was responsible for, and he's not the president of Dominican Republic Boxing. He's just a former president of Dominican Republic. So he's loosely connected to Dominican. And so But it's very clear to us, the Caribbean, the English-speaking Caribbean nations, it's very clear to us that this is not an exercise in assuring ethical procedure, because ethical procedure would be to have a legitimate bank account. So for us, it's very clear that this is just an attempt, like what's going on in America, to eliminate our vote, to suppress our vote.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a commercial break, but when we come back, I want to get more into what's the next move for you guys on the 12th and 13th. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
We've already sung the praises of Welch's famous grape juice, so healthful and refreshing, a truly great family favorite. So with the festive season fast approaching, remember to stock up on Welch's sparkling juice cocktails, flavorful and thirst-quenching, another celebration of the greatness of the grape. The Welch's White, Red, and Rosé are all wonderful on their own, but for a special seasonal treat, try Welch's sparkling juice cocktail in festive punch recipes, garnished with cinnamon sticks or fresh cranberries. All non-alcoholic and also festive. Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. We're joined by the Bermuda Boxing Federation President, Nathan Gill. Nathan, so where do we stand at the Congress come in 2 weeks' time?
So as of right now, Bermuda boxing is suspended from the Congress. We launched an appeal, the 9 Caribbean countries, we launched an appeal. We noted that due process had not been followed, and we have been suspended before any disciplinary hearing has taken place. Responding to that, AIBA put a disciplinary panel together. They initially gave us 3 days to respond to their allegations. We sent back and we said 3 days will not suffice. Some of the leads, Cayman Islands and St. Vincent and St. Lucia, they had received or they had sought legal advice, and that's where it's going. We're making it very clear to AIBA that we will challenge this legally. They will go through a whole exercise of having an election, but if we do not have a voice in this election, we will challenge that the election was null and void, and we will challenge that legally through courts and law arbitration. Hopefully it does not go that far. So last night was tonight's Wednesday. Yes, tonight was my deadline to submit my response to the formal letter of complaint that AIBA sent me on behalf of the AMBC. I sent that in last night. We unified our response. It was a very legalese response. They said, read it, make sure you're happy with it, put your logo on it, put your signature on it. I read it, I went through it. It was very concise. It was very concise. So we are unified in our approach. We're not going to send in 8 different responses to these allegations that we all share. We sent in one response and everybody, because that seems to be the strategy, divide and conquer. They want to know, hey, what did you do, Bermuda? So if I say something at fault, or if I say something to try to clear myself, that may not apply to my brothers and sisters in the Caribbean. So we intentionally sent in a unified response to this, and that went in today, and that went in last night for today, and we're gonna wait and see. But as of right now, Bermuda boxing is still suspended. I mean, we cannot participate in the Congress, and how it affects our boxers and is that they will not be able to participate in any AIBA events until this is sorted out.
How did we get from 23 to 9 though? Because initially, when we had initially spoken, it was 23 Caribbean countries that was not going to be allowed to vote.
It was 23 countries overall.
Overall, I'm sorry, but it was 9.
The 9 is just the Caribbean. It's really 8, but the 9 is the Caribbean countries.
What about those others? Are they now allowed to vote, or?
So I haven't heard any thing more about the other regions, but I know a couple of countries in the Asiatic region are having challenges. African countries are having challenges. So it's not unique to us. I don't know the exact situation, but I'm understanding like you that it's about 23 countries that cannot vote at all. One thing that I would like to note is the ludicrous nature, because if there was a problem with the payment, if I go to pay my bank and there's a problem with the payment, what do? They send it back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that AIBA has kept the payment, but said, we're going to make you ineligible. Because what they should have done, which is too late for them, is say to the Dominican Republic, I'm sorry, we cannot accept this payment on behalf of it. And then make us scramble to pay it before that deadline. Or they say, hey, well, we sent you back the payment, it's too late. But they did not do that. So it's really surprising. And to me, that's evidence of the political game that they're actually playing.
So initially you were allowed to be in the Congress, but you couldn't vote. So now that what I'm hearing is that you're not even allowed to be in the Congress?
No, I'm not allowed to be. It's an online registration. I received notice that my registration was rejected, and that's going to stand until this disciplinary hearing takes place. I'm encouraged by the disciplinary hearing because it's somebody from Canada, somebody from the USA. So these are some major countries, and I think they're going to be impartial to these, and I think they're going to look at these a little bit different. But this is what we're seeing as far as when the IOC said to AIBA, you need to clean house, they didn't just mean the head. And I'm realizing that a lot of people under the head who act in this certain way, they need to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny when you first started talking about the Olympics in 2016, it's funny you should say that because there was a lot of talk in the village and even around the village, because I was there, and some of the athletes were really upset with some of the decisions being made because if you saw some of the fights, as I did, you could clearly, I'm saying, well, okay, how did they come up with that decision? Because it didn't look as if, these things were happening, and I'm saying, well, how do you score this? Because obviously they're figuring out a different way to score this, and
it's I don't want to put it like this, but one particular group of countries who do not speak the same language that we speak are unified in their approach.
Yes.
So that country that speaks the language that we do not speak has all gotten together and said, if it's somebody who speaks our language, you give it to that country.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Yes. It's unfortunate. Well, Nathan, thank you very much for bringing us up to date with what's going on, and obviously I'll get back in touch with you to see what response you get back from this appeal to be part of the Congress. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Right. I appreciate you. All right. We're going to take another commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by the president of the Bermuda Netball Association, Ms. Kamal Evans. We'll be back.
Coconut oil has been popular here in Bermuda as a skin moisturizer for generations, but is sometimes avoided in cookery because of its unhealthy reputation. We've witnessed a change in attitudes as recent findings indicate that coconut oil is actually heart healthy and can enhance our immune systems, increase metabolism, energy and endurance, and improve digestion. Nutiva coconut oil is a superfood in its own right, and this month we're featuring Nutiva organic shortening made with organic coconut and red palm oils and also hemp seed oil. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
And welcome back to this Wednesday, November 25th edition of the Island Stat Sports Show. Again, my co-host, Juggling Jason Ford. And we're joined by the president of the Bermuda Netball Association, Ms. Kamal Evans. First of all, good evening, madam. How are you?
Good evening. I'm good, thank you.
Good, good. You're wearing a big smile because finally, you're not wearing a big smile yet. Your season is due to get underway this coming weekend. It's been a while. How
Yeah,
are things shaping up for this?
it's definitely been a long road. We have been working very diligently behind the scenes in making sure that we're meeting all the requirements by the government and to ensure the health and safety of our players, coaches, as well as spectators.
Yeah. What are the restrictions? I know because for you guys, it's a long day. It starts out with the junior program and goes right through to the senior program. There's not a lot of space, especially in the changeover, like when the juniors are finishing and the under 16s are coming in, or the
Mhm.
next group are coming in, and then you got parents and everything. So how do you plan to manage that changeover of groups?
Well, one of the things that is happening is that our leagues are starting an hour earlier. In previous years, our leagues kicked off at 1 p.m. With our junior leagues, they're going to be starting now at 12 o'clock, which will allow us that extra time in between to turn around. Logistically, what we have done is met with youth sport and recreation and been able to manage specific entrance and exit points for players and spectators alike. So, similar to some of the things that were required of football, is basically having a separate entrance for the players versus the spectators and trying to keep people physically distant. So, in order to meet that expectation, what we've done is that all players will enter from the Priest softball diamond area, um, similar to somewhat of a bubble that football has. We can allow that walking area for mostly for players only during that time. So we've put a lot of different things in place to ensure that during and after our matches, we're able to facilitate making sure that we're sanitizing and doing things of that nature. One of the other things logistically is that before we used to have teams that would just, come onto the court and start their warm-ups. Warm-ups will now take place in the softball diamond outfield. So teams will have designated areas within there where they can start their warm-up, allow for us to break down from one match. The teams that have just finished those matches will have to exit the player zone, is what we're referring to it as completely, which would mean that they would exit out of the Michael Priest entrance area. So that will be an entrance and an exit point, and therefore allows us to be able to do what we need to do before allowing the next set of teams onto the court of play.
Yeah. In working with the government and the health people in trying to get this kind of facilitated to get a season going, how long has this process been?
For me personally, I feel like I wrote a dissertation this summer. Um, our return to sport protocols, it doesn't just encompass where we are as a country right here and right now. It allows for four different phases. So we have from phase one to phase four, which allows us to be able to move forward or backwards depending on whatever the current climate calls for. So that was a good thing. And obviously now with what has happened, those protocols are now coming into play and allows us to be able to shift and gives us the flexibility to do so, without having to give a whole bunch of thought because it's already been thought out. So that in particular was very tedious. One of the other things is that we want to ensure that we are very visual in what our requirements are for not only players but spectators as well. So you'll see a lot of visual banners around that are continuously reiterating our requirements and things of that nature.
For the spectators, what is the limit that you guys have agreed to thus far?
Well, the limit that was approved by health department was that we can have up to 120 persons, which will be inclusive of players and spectators and coaches alike. With the recent decision by government to change the gatherings of 50 persons at this current time, and the timeliness of this interview is so funny because we've just sent these announcement out to our coaches that no spectators at this point will be allowed inside the gated area at all at this point, but will be able to view from outside the perimeter of the gates. We want to just allow the players to be able to play and not have to try and manage that side of things. So we've erred on, the side of caution and decided that we at this time will not be allowing any additional spectators, despite us having received the authorization to have up to 120 people, which in our estimation would have been an additional 60 persons allowed inside the player zone area.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of parents that come and support and so forth, but this is a kind of a plea to get started, isn't it?
It is a plea to get started. I know I've spoken to you on different platforms in reference to, sports losing players to other sports, losing players to, different activities. So for us, it is imperative for us to try and get started. Our previous players are really looking forward to getting started. And we just don't want to lose our momentum that we've gained over the years in growing the sport and growing our players. So, it's really, really important for us to get moving and not prolong it.
Yeah. Former netball player Jason, any questions?
You got to go there. President, I do remember a celebrity tournament.
Let's move on.
But somebody really took a hold of him. No, just saying about that. You just mentioned about where you've come in the last couple of years. It's the success of rebranding almost the whole sport. Obviously using social media. Obviously using a lot of the young players to help grow your sport. Obviously, it's been a time. This COVID's been a time that's been hard on everybody. But you've also seen a lot more visual stuff during social media. What are some of the plans or initiatives you get from your young folks to even, like you said, help grow the sport during this time, because it is trying for all organizations right now?
Well, I mean, for any netball player and coach alike, when we've just been walking on the streets, we've had several young people stop us and say, when are we going to play netball again? I mean, and this has been happening for months. When are we going to play? And we're saying we're just waiting on the approval from government, and then once we went through the tedious process of making sure that we got approval, we wanted to make sure and get our clubs on board and ensuring that they were doing whatever they had to do. Social media plays a huge part in trying to promote anything for that matter. So we have our young people that do work behind the scenes. One of the things is that, I don't feel that I'm good at everything, but there are some things that I can do well, and I know my role. And I'm not afraid to call on some of our younger people to help, promote us and get us out there. So it seems to be working well for us on both ends.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that the vandalism part of all that is now over and done with, because you guys have been waiting a long time, and it would be hurtful to see you guys get started and then have to stop because of someone else's bad behavior. But looking on the bright side, how are the teams shaping up?
Well, the teams seem to be shaping up fairly well. Teams have been training down at the Bernard Park facility for at minimum about 6 weeks. So, they have been able to get, some training in. Obviously, most of our teams trained down, or most, if not all of our teams trained down at Bernard Park. So you can understand us being able to try and organize the scheduling of training, to try and get everybody in there and equally afford everyone the opportunity to train down there at the courts. So, it's our hope that they're doing their due diligence and we're providing them with everything that we can to ensure that we're able to operate as smoothly as we can.
Yeah, you guys starting just a little later than usual. So are you making sure that you get as many league games in? And then, because last year you guys were throwing in a little bit of competitions here and there. Will you be emphasizing the league to try and get that done as quickly as possible?
So what we've done is we've taken the approach that there will only be league match play at this time. We haven't introduced any tournament play because obviously with tournaments it brings larger crowds. It has more teams there. So in order for us to ensure that we are um, enforcing the social distancing and things like that, we just have league play, and the schedules have been done in a manner as to allow the breakdown. So if there was a under 11 match that's taking place at 12, the next under 11 match wouldn't happen to 1 o'clock, but will take place on the other court and not the same court. So logistically, we've tried to make sure that we've allowed that to happen. Um, yeah.
Okay, so got a plan. You're ready to move forward. Tip off at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean it's
uh,
it's it's really, Earl, in all honesty, it's been very tough, and especially with this just most recent government guideline as far as the 50 persons, it's I mean, everyone is a bit anxious right now, and we understand, the anxiousness. And we basically recommend that parents and or players alike do what is best for them. We're not forcing anyone to be out there on the courts, and we would always put safety first. So, for us, we want them to understand that we have done our due diligence. We have done everything that we can to ensure a safe environment, or as safe of an environment that we can provide for them. And we just hope that they are respectful of that and can actually look into the amount of work that has been put into this and just be able to enjoy themselves and just play.
yeah. Well, let's hope for a good Saturday to start the season off. I will see you at the park,
Yep.
and and we have a good start to the season that actually springboks you to a great end to the season as well. So I want to thank you
Yeah.
for your time.
You're
Is there
welcome.
anything else?
No, what I just want to encourage everyone is to make sure and do their part. Make sure that they practice social distancing. Make sure that you are washing your hands and sanitizing regularly to ensure that themselves and Bermuda stays safe.
One other thing, because where the players will come through, there's only one restroom facility there, one for
Yes.
men, one for females. But if the spectators are on the outside, is there any provisions being made to have any type of restrooms available for them?
Yeah, so the spectators will be on the outside. However, once the players enter at the Michael Priesthood entrance, they will then be taken into the warm-up zone. So they have now left that particular area and
Okay.
they are going into the warm-up area. So the public can still utilize those bathrooms. And obviously, there's a gate that
Yes.
allows you to go onto the outfield. There's also another gate that allows you to enter onto the court of play. So we will make sure that we have personnel there that are directing people as to where they can go and where they cannot go. And obviously, they will be able to use the restrooms, one person in, one person out at a time.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck. I'll see you on Saturday.
Thank you very much. See you
All right.
Saturday.
And we'll be back with more Honest That Sports Show after this message from our sponsor.
Every resident of Bermuda deserves to spend their final days with dignity. They also deserve access to privacy for themselves and their loved ones. Although Agape House has lovingly wrapped its arms around thousands of patients and their families, it can no longer meet the needs of our community. There is an urgent need for a new facility, and we need your help to make that happen. Donate today by going to agiftforagape.com or calling 232-0859. Help give Agape House a new home. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
Oh, Jay, this night is going by fast. Well, let's actually reflect a little bit on what we've heard from first Nathan and then Kamal. But listening to Nathan, he was very detailed in his explanation on how things have materialized and what their next step is. What were your thoughts?
Man, it just felt like deja vu, man. We had that with FIFA. Didn't we have that with Down in the scandal down in Trinidad. What's the guy? What the name? You know I'm getting
Jack
at.
Warner?
Yes.
Yes.
It just you hear it with the cricket on the other side of the world. You hear it with the Russians. You hear it. I mean, it just feels bad, and I feel for the athletes
Yeah. They're
because
the ones who get lost in all of this. Yeah.
who don't have a voice.
Hmm.
They don't even have a voice in this, Earl.
Right.
And they are the product.
Hmm.
That's the part that for a solo sport per se, they don't have a voice.
Right. It makes it interesting, doesn't it, that we sit up and we watch boxing in Vegas, we watch boxing at Madison Square Gardens, and we don't even think of the federation, Jimmy, and the legal parts of how this actually material. We just think, oh, I'm signing the deal to fight Jason, and Jason's signing the deal to fight Earl.
That was been the demise of boxing in the United States. It has just started to come around again. Whereas remember, boxing was at one point in time that it was only those main fights were only going to be on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
When we grew up, it was on Saturday afternoons on television.
Right. Yeah.
And guess what they had to resort back to? Saturday afternoons on television, and any other platform they could do it now. You're seeing it and it's going across multiple networks. That's how desperate they've gotten to try to get back, because the Ultimate Fighting, the UFC, has just basically taken over that fight game altogether. And I'm wondering, and this is what I'm wondering, because we see it in the NBA, how the NBA players have a voice.
Yes. Yeah.
Why they have a voice, Earl? And I hate to say this, they have a union. They have a players union. That is very powerful. And they claim that's probably one of the most powerful unions in American sports is the NBA's players union.
Right.
So I'm wondering.
If you look throughout the Caribbean and all the Caribbean sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
And well, Caribbean, South America combined, it's always that language barrier. And that language barrier would always keep the athletes on the outside because they will want to control the pot and the play.
We've had this conversation because some people might say that, but some people might also use another term. We hear it in politics all the time: friends and family.
Oh yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
People are going to take care of their friends and family first.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, when you're depending on so many other people to make that product what it is, and that's the problem. You can't just depend on a clique of people,
right,
and give nobody else a say if you're relying on them. And I'm glad that it's there. Talking to Nathan, that they are unified with some countries where it's not just
one or two.
Everybody having a separate voice. They're coming with a unified voice, and that's probably sometimes things like this need to happen for this to happen.
Right. And then for the netball, I'm really looking forward to this season because
you know what,
they won a real last season.
But you know what? Last week Saturday morning, and we had this talk. I had actual off here a couple of weeks ago. What's going on in netball? And I forgot all about it when we talked about it. Last week Saturday morning, I drove across. It's like, man, where's netball? Like it's busy. Saturdays, wintertime, it's busy.
Yeah.
It's busy from all day. And I'm saying, man, it feels like ghost town. There's nothing going on. So the timing of this was like, okay, thank you. It's coming, please.
So come Saturday when you drive across there, parking spots.
But ain't no parking spot anyway.
Well, on a Saturday when it's netball, it's worse.
What I want to ask you earlier, I don't know, because so a couple of years ago, they took the liberty to clear out that bank, clear the bank out, clear the furniture there, but it just basically, I don't know if they created it off. But I wonder if there's any plans to actually put seating on that bank.
I think there were, but as you know, when it comes to government, things take a little longer. Although they could just pick up the phone and get it done if something really, really drastic happens. But they wait until something really, really drastic happens in order to do that. So I know there's plans to do something of that nature, but when that would actually happen?
Because if you look at the area, the land from the court to the roadside.
Mm-hmm.
So the northern side would be. It's quite a decent area.
Yeah.
Even if you put some of those bleachers up there, just
Mm-hmm.
bleachers. I'm not saying it will work during this time of this COVID because obviously you still have to have the social distance, especially at the bottlenecks, and that's the problem with that location. There's always going to be a bottleneck somewhere to get in and out, so that's always going to be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But to get up and the other thing that I was listening to her is these kids have a lot more options, activities.
Yeah.
It's just the reality of it.
Yeah. And if Netflix not going to start, let's go to the next.
Yeah, and I'm saying that because in the meantime, they're using Michael Priest Stadium. We haven't heard much of softball yet, are we?
They're looking to rally their start as well. So that's soon coming as well.
But you know what I'm saying? So I mean, like you said, the later it is, the more these athletes get involved in a sport or get committed to a sport, then they might not have time for something else. So I'm glad that our young ladies are able to have some fun because one thing I was talking to a good friend of mine. One thing that this COVID has brought in a lot of households is depression.
Yeah.
And I think people don't, realize, it's been said, I haven't seen the numbers, but it's been said, a lot of abuse and physical abuse and verbal abuse has happened during this time when people are in lockdown or whatever. And we heard that across the world. So just the fact that the kids could get out, parents just get some exercise, get out, have some fun. I mean, and just once again, for that hour and a half, 2 hours, get your mind off of, you know what I'm saying? So
household problem. Yeah. Well, let's quickly jump into our overseas report, and we'll come back and discuss some of the things that Vernon A. Springer and Anne Marie Burke have to say. So let's first hear from Vernon A. Springer.
This is Vernon Springer from St. John's, Antigua and Barbuda for Island Stats in Bermuda from Grassroots Media. Sports, wow. What I can say to you, I can just say to you that yes, you indicated of the West Indies series starting off between West Indies and New Zealand. It's also a very top day for cricket because you have India taking on Australia and you have England versus South Africa. So you have 6 of the top cricketing nations squaring off on the 27th, which is going to be exciting cricket action all around. The Antigua Barbuda Cricket Association right here where I'm based, they're going to be starting off a 10-10 competition, which will run from the 5th to the 20th of December. Some 10 teams are going to be participating in that championship, including the combined schools team and the PIC Liberta Blackhawks team, among a number of other teams that will participate in that competition. The Nevis Cricket Association, they have their league, which is taking place, their T20 league, so that has been an exciting time. The St. Kitts Cricket Association, they completed their T20 tournament, which was won by the Molyneux and Keon Cricket Club. That's the area in terms of where Noel Gishard coaches. And so they have won out that championship over the Sandy Point team, which have the people and the likes of Akeem Saunders and Sheena Berridge and Shane Jeffers and company, Terrence Ward, all those guys played for Sandy Point. So that was an exciting competition. The Antigua and Barbuda Cricket Association, they're also looking to start something in January. So we'll wait and see in terms of what's happening. And you know that the Super 50, that will be coming up very quickly in February, and everything looks like it's going to be slated for Antigua and Barbuda. Barbados, they've also had their competition. St. Vincent and the Grenadines Cricket Association, they also had some cricket action there. Grenada, they've also got some cricket action taking place. So all in all, Anguilla and St. Martin, there's been a steady storm coming back of sporting activities. Trinidad and Tobago, FIFA has lifted the ban, so that's good news for football, but we'll have another debate on that, as whether that is good or that is bad. Coming back to Antigua and Barbuda, we have 2 young men, one in Joseph Nunes and Travis West. They're going to be heading up to the Canary Islands. The Antigua, it's named up the Antigua Players, and they're going to be heading up to the Canary Islands to start rowing from the Canary Islands down to Antigua and Barbuda is expected some 3,000 miles. Their competition is expected to start sometime in the 12th of December, barring that everything goes all right with COVID. So in terms of sports otherwise on the world stage, well, all of the NBA teams are looking to make their moves to beef up their squad for the start of the new NBA season. We got the English Premier League football taking place. We got the Champions League taking place. But in the Caribbean, everything is slowly just coming back into realization. Let me also take some time out to salute Sir Lewis Hamilton, who will be knighted in 2021. I think this man has done an excellent job along with Marcus Rashford, and they continue to fly the Black Lives Matter movement flag in a very big way. This is Vernon Springer from Vast Sports Media for Island Stats in Bermuda.
Hi, Earl. Everything is going also fine over here in Barbados. Definitely winding down the year when it comes to sports. The only thing we're really looking forward to right now happens to be night racing at the Garson Savannah. It's scheduled for November the 30th, which is this coming Monday, and it will be the day that we celebrate independence. So it's a bank holiday over here in Barbados, and we're expected to make it a historic one on a historic day when we have night racing for the first time. The card is being finalized throughout the week. By tomorrow, we know exactly how many races will go under lights, as we have that for the first time at the Garson Savannah. So we're looking forward to that over here in Barbados. Also winding down is the volleyball season. We already have the Kings crowned in the volleyball league. Their Deacons and the Deacons Club happen to be perennial winners of the volleyball championships. They're known to be powerhouses, and again this year they've taken the crown in both the knockouts and now the league title. In terms of the female volleyball competition, there's still about 3 teams that they get down to the wire vying for that title. The knockout title already decided, but UW Blackbirds are the knockout queens, and they have some contention in terms of, competition, I should say, in terms of who would be the league champions. They are in the hunt along with Toners as well as Chargers ladies. So basically that's it from us here in Barbados. Our local jockeys have all finished playing their trade over in Canada. For sure, the Woodbine season was cut short only on Friday. It was supposed to run right down to December the 13th, but because of the lockdown in Canada, our jockeys have now been put to rest for the year, I should say, because they no longer have racing. The Woodbine track had to close because of the protocols. And when it closed, the top finishing jockey for Barbados was veteran Patrick Husbands. He ended 7th in the jockey standings. And he's usually a perennial winner, but he has had a lot of injuries over the years. He's not mounted as many horses as in previous years, and therefore he finished about 7th to be the highest ranked Barbadian jockey over there at Woodbine. So basically that's it from us here in Barbados. Coming on to the end of the year, and we're just winding down sports, and we're looking to see exactly come 2021 what the sport in Canada will have to offer, as either we try to get some sort of normalcy back up and running, or in 2021 try to continue to cope with the COVID-19 and all that comes with it. So it's really good to hear from you again, and I look forward to hearing from you again next week.
Well, as we know, come Friday is that start of that the 2020 series between West Indies and New Zealand, as Vernon alluded to. You getting up early?
Yes.
Okay. On you.
You know what? It's like before any race, before any season, you all start at 0-0.
Yeah.
And we saw that in the Test series in England.
Everybody when West Indies won the first game, everybody had them down as the champions of the world.
Hey, Cap was watching that, didn't it? And if you missed it, well, you definitely missed it. The best.
Oh boy, did you ever?
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching. It's you know where I stand when it comes to the West Indies. The players. I just hate. I won't say it reminds me of cup match, but you always want to see the best players represent the country, and you're not getting that.
Definitely.
So
before we come to an end, I want to say congratulations to both Arnold Manders and Kelly Smith. Kelly, the first female vice president of the Bermuda Cricket Board, elected last week, Thursday, and Arnold taking over the leadership, taking over from Lloyd Smith, who had a term in office and kind of took a lot of responsibility of getting cricket played this year throughout the COVID pandemic. And we hope that someone like Lloyd stays around to offer his advice and some of his knowledge to the leadership of the Bermuda Cricket Board, because many hands make light work.
Yeah, well, we use this word family, but families stick together good at bad times. And when the times get rough, we have to rely on family. We can't always rely on outsiders to come and help us. So Lloyd was the head of the family. He's still family. He has to be involved, whether it's in the club level, whether it's administration level, but still be involved, because we need, as like you said, many hands. To get cricket back to where we want to get, we have to have as many hands on deck. Just one quick note with Ms. Smith. She's done such a great job with revitalizing the women's game. We saw that go not just dormant, but extinct, pretty much. And to start with the grassroots, it's been very smart, and they've been able to get sponsorship in the whole line. And you see the youngsters, it's going to probably be bittersweet. I won't say bittersweet, because you see, after doing the few celebrity tournaments, they had some young ladies playing, and one of the young ladies ever remains, first was his niece.
Yes.
And now you see his daughter getting involved. So it's going to be interesting times and exciting times for the BCB. Hopefully, once again, they can just move forward, and hopefully we can, get more partnerships within the community to help out, because once again, it's going to take everybody's hands on deck.
Yeah. And before we go, I just want to say our condolences to the country of Argentina for the loss of Diego Maradona. He's an icon, not just to Argentina, but around the world in football. And we want to say condolences to him and his family on the time of his passing.
Yeah, Earl, I mean, that was something. I heard some news, him being in the hospital with the surgery, and he's been struggling with health for a little while. But when you hear that line, it still does. It just doesn't. It doesn't feel right. Obviously, you're closer to 60 than I am, so I was just a little whippersnapper when when Argentina won the World Cup.
I remember that day. I remember the game against England. I remember that tournament in '86, like it was it's actually happening now.
Yeah. And like I said, I was young. I don't know about you, but I was young. And at the time, as players, we had our allegiance. Half a team would be for Pele at the time, who was the rival.
Yes.
And the other half would be for Maradona. Now, if you was a goalkeeper, you was probably for Banks or guys like that, and then if you was Shilton and Banks, and then probably even defenders. But you always had your players. But for that number 10 jersey, number 10, and what everybody just wanted to be that number 10, and then what was the boots back then? Those guys were the Pumas. We all went out and got the Pumas, and we wore our socks like that, and the shorts, and but I mean, just looking at Pele, and Pele was in some bad health not too long ago. Hopefully he's feeling better. But to see those two icons be rivalries, but still great friends, but different paths in life after the game. Obviously, Maradona had troubles with substance abuse for the longest period, and being banned from football for a few times. But in saying that, you can never, that genius that you saw, and even if you look at some of the video now, the genius, and for the English fans, the hand of God, as they would say. Yeah.
86, they were ready to hang him up by his hand.
Hey, you know what my motto is, you ain't trying.
Yeah. You got away with it. He lifted the precious trophy at the end of it all. Whatever said and done, the pictures will prove it that he did hand the ball. But if the referee and the referee assistant did not see it in those times, it was a good.
And see, and Earl, and this is why I tell somebody when somebody complains with VAR, that's a prime example. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's not just winning a game. That was winning the World Cup.
Yes.
And I had a privilege of going to the Olympics when it was held in Atlanta in 94, 98,
96.
96. And they played the football out in Augusta, in Georgia, with the University of Georgia. And Argentina was playing Nigeria, Kanu.
Right.
And even then, at that game, how many years later, you still heard fans cheering and calling out Maradona's name, you know? So it's just one of those icons. This is one time that it really fits him. Icon.
Yeah. Well, Brew, have a good night.
Hey, enjoy. You sucked this weekend picks again. Jeez.
Everybody did.
I'm not talking about everybody. I said you.
Everybody did, brother. I'm still in the mix. I'm not worried.
They go to cricket this week. I mean, league football. They go to league football this week.
Yeah. I ain't too concerned. I'm in third place, mate. 2 points behind the leader. Yeah. Have a good night.
All right, Brad.